changing your life one story at a time. This is the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast with Editor-in-Chief Amy Newmark.
Hey, it's Amy Newmark with your daily dose of Chicken Soup for the Soul inspiration. It's Wow Wednesday, and that means I get to share with you one of my favorite mind-boggling stories, one of those truth is stranger than fiction stories. So here's an area that remains a mystery to all of us, dementia. You may have a relative with Alzheimer's or another form of dementia. Many of us do. We don't know what's going on inside the brain of someone with dementia. And we certainly don't know why people with dementia will sometimes emerge from that dementia for minutes or hours or even days and suddenly recognize everyone and act their old selves again. I see these stories all the time, and they never cease to amaze me. And they remind me that since we don't really know what's going on inside the brains of our loved ones with dementia, we need to keep talking to them and including them to the maximum extent possible. We did a whole book on this topic that we actually used as a fundraising tool for the Alzheimer's Association. It's called Chicken Soup for the Soul, Living with Alzheimer's and Other Dementias. And I am proud to say that that book has already raised more than $70,000 to support the Alzheimer's Association and its chapters and the amazing work they do. So our storyteller today for our selection from the book is John White, and the story is called Dancing Words. And this happened in 1980 when John was a nursing home administrator, and he had just joined the team at the Phoenix Mountain Nursing Center. And John went around meeting all the residents, including a lovely gentleman named Mr. Russell Lyon Sr. John recognized his name because John had just been looking for a new home, and he had seen the name Russ Lyon Realty on a lot of billboards all over town. When John asked Mr. Lyon if he was indeed the famous Russ Lyon, all he got was a blank stare. But a nurse confirmed that this gentleman was indeed that Russ Lyon. Over the next several months, John saw Mr. Lyon daily, usually at lunch or dinner in the dining room. He was always impeccably dressed and always acted quite the gentleman, but he never spoke or responded in any way to any attempts at conversation. He always just had that blank stare on his face. He could walk, though, and he always complied with any requests he got from the nursing staff. Well, then the Christmas season came along, and the nursing home started hosting carolers and other singers and performers. And the highlight of the holiday season was going to be the dance that was scheduled a week before Christmas. The home set up a 30 by 30-foot dance floor, and they brought in a full orchestra. And the night of the dance, the orchestra started off by playing Christmas carols, and Mr. Lyon sat there politely and just stared with that blank stare as usual. But then the orchestra switched from Christmas carols to big band tunes. And Mr. Lyon immediately stood up, turned to his caregiver and said, "Would you care to dance?" The caregiver was astonished, but said, "I'd love to." And they walked hand in hand to the dance floor, and Mr. Lyon began dancing as if he had been practicing just for this event. As he danced, he chatted with the staff sitting all around the dance floor. He said hello to people. He told them that he appreciated the little things that they did for him daily. And he told them that he was frustrated with his inability to communicate with them. John, our writer, talked with Mr. Lyon during the dance, and Mr. Lyon said to him, "I'm still here." And while the music played, he danced with all the nurses, and he was animated in his discussions. But when the music stopped, the blank stare returned as if a switch had been thrown. After that, the nursing home and Mr. Lyon's family knew exactly what to do. Whenever they wanted to talk to him, they played songs from the 1940s. This worked for another 8 months until that communication channel finally shut down too, and Mr. Lyon died a month later. It's a great reminder for all of us when we're dealing with a family member, a patient, or anyone we come across who seems unresponsive. There is still a person in there who deserves respect, compassion, and normal communication. As Mr. Lyon said to John when the music was playing, "I'm still here." So you can see why I like my job. I get to read and tell these wow stories all the time. The next time we get together, I'm going to wow you in a different way. with a story about a second wife who married a widower and figured out the perfect recipe for connecting her stepdaughters with their late mom and herself at the same time. I'm Amy Newmark. Thank you for listening to the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast today. I'd love it if you would help me spread the word by telling your friends about this podcast. And if they're new to podcasts, as I was until a few weeks ago, feel free to show them how to use podcasts and how to get them on their phone or on their computers. And if you'd like to read more thought-provoking, helpful stories from the book I mentioned today, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Living with Alzheimer's and Other Dementias, then please go to our website, chickensoup.com.